Hello Mavericks, how's it going? This is Rob Reinhold, and here we are Tuesday, August 2nd. So let's talk about this market because the equity market has been, I don't want to call it tricky, but it's been trendless. And that's kind of what we thought was going to happen this week. If we take a look at the last two candles, you can see that on Monday, at one point we were up, at one point we were down, and then on Tuesday we gapped down, and at one point we're up very nicely. And then we fell and lost it all. And so the S&P closed down 0.2%, VT about the same, crypto down about 1%. So it was a mildly bearish day. But at one point, it was actually quite bullish. Now, the thing that really kind of turned the tide today was the news that House Speaker Pelosi landed in Taiwan. The Chinese government did not like it. They started to do some military exercises. Basically, the U.S.-China relations tension has definitely been heightened. We did get some good earnings from PayPal, Twitter, and Uber and Pinterest the day before. And so again, the market was trying to go higher, but it just hasn't been able to go higher. Now, this is really off of just consolidation. And let's take a look at the VT here. The consolidation over this massive gain that we got at the end of last week. So these big three green candles, huge candles, you can't expect candles like that to last forever. At some point, you need to get some cooling off, some basing, some pullbacks, and that's just what we're getting here. If we jump over to the cryptos here, we had those two big green candles, and take a look at this really orderly sell-off we're having. Now, this orderly sell-off is bringing us right back into support level. We got a nice little bounce off of that today. This needs to have some follow-through. Now, I talked about how I was mildly bullish cryptos. I am still mildly bullish cryptos. I think there's better things to go out there and buy, but cryptos here, again, mildly bullish at best. So if we are taking a look at our charts here, the fact that we are above the 20 and above the 50 on the daily chart on the S&P, it means that we have to be leaning more towards the risk-on side of the equation. But we're going to jump in here to the currencies and see how they performed. And you're going to see that the currencies, they're just marching to their own beat. On the calendar and the schedule this week, we've got ISM services tomorrow. Not going to matter all that much. And then really everyone's looking forward to Friday, August 5th, the U.S. payrolls report. So we will be meeting live for that payrolls report as a firm, where we're going to be making trades right there as it happens. But let's take a look over the currency analysis for the next 24 hours. Here's where we stood 24 hours ago. We had the yen as the strongest currency. The yen had a huge jump on Monday. The dollar and the CAD were weak. Cryptos were a little weaker. And then everything else was really in the middle. So let's take a look at how things performed over the last 24 hours. So the cryptos, they basically stayed a little weak. They stayed a little weak. They didn't do that great. So if we take a look at the best performer was Ethereum. Ethereum has been our best long on the cryptocurrency side, but we've been very clear it's not a great trade. It's just the best right now. And if you're going to be in cryptos, it's really the only thing that you should be in at all. But really, you should be in cash in cryptos. In Forex, we had the dollar that was the weakest currency yesterday was the strongest currency today. And the big story is the Aussie dollar was the weakest, and that's really because the RBA came out and was not as hawkish as the market thought it was going to be. So we saw some downward pressure on the Aussie and the Kiwi. So let's take a look at the currencies one by one and score them based on their velocity score. We're going to start with Bitcoin here. So we had that big jump that we saw a couple of weeks ago. This is a 4-hour chart, and we're looking at a 13-period EMA, parabolic SAR, and an RSI. And you can see that there's been no question that we've had that pullback. We saw that in the charts. We just got this little bit of a trigger. We did trade above the parabolic SAR for just a second. The EMA is starting to flatten out. The RSI is starting to flatten out. So these are some early signs that we might be getting a turn in Bitcoin. But to me, I'm looking at this saying, okay, well, you still have more work to do. I've got to get that EMA sloping upward, and I want to see a little bit more work. We come over here to Ethereum, and we can see Ethereum's already done some of that work. It's already flattened. The RSI has already bottomed out. We're getting some better candles off the bottom. So Ethereum definitely looks a little bit better. I'm only going to give this a +1. That's about it. If we go to Bitcoin Cash is in the same boat as Bitcoin. We had that jump. We had the pullback. This bounce here is not, it doesn't have the momentum yet. You can't buy this because it just isn't there yet. So Bitcoin Cash is a 0. Let's go to Litecoin. And we see the same thing. Moving average still going lower. RSI is really just flattened out. Nothing to tell us that there's a lot of momentum strong right now. So unless these improve substantially, really all the cryptos here are basically on the shelf. Well, let's take a look at dollar here. Now, dollar was the weakest currency on Monday, and it was the strongest currency on Tuesday. However, take a look. This is all in the context of a lower moving trend. Now, yes, at the point right now, we are getting some strength. There's no question about it. So I want you to take a look at this chart, and then I'm going to flip over to the yen chart. And you're going to see it's about the same thing in reverse. What we're seeing here is we're seeing this inverse correlation between dollar yen is really strong right now. And it seems to last about one day, then it goes back to the other. I don't know how long that's going to stay, but I am absolutely looking at dollar yen for potential shorter term range bound trades. We'll take a look at that on a chart. So the yen here, which was a clear +3, all of a sudden now we have a EMA that's starting to slope down. We've got parabolic stars that are hit. We got an RSI that's diving. So the yen is starting to look like it's going lower. Dollar looks like it's going higher at the moment. The question is, how long is that going to last? And can we make some pips off of it? We'll take a look at this pair specifically. Next up is the Swiss franc, and you can see there's nothing going on in the Swiss franc. It is flat as flat can be. So we don't need to spend any more time on this. Just don't trade Swiss franc over the next 24 hours. Now here is euro. Now this was my trade of the week. This is my trade of the week. And I said on Sunday that we had likely bottomed out in the short term and we needed a base or a rally before I could enter a new short. Well, guess what? We're getting our base. We're getting our base. It looks fantastic. So I'm getting really excited, but it's not ready yet. We've got EMA that's flat. We got parabolic star that's flat. RSI is flat. So this is setting up nicely for euro, but it's not triggered yet. Could it trigger in the next 24 hours? Yes. A breakdown below this support. I'm absolutely all in, ready to go in euro short. But until then, I got to be patient. I don't think it's going to be for about another day or two before euro breaks down. Let's take a look at pound. And look at pound all of a sudden, after really quite a while of just not looking all that good of a long or a short, starting to look better. Now look, it's not the greatest thing I've ever seen, but you can see that this EMA was going higher. It flattened out and we started to turn higher again. We're hitting up against these resistance points. The pound is definitely on my list of buyable currencies to go long. +2 on pound. CAD was one of the weakest ones on Monday, now one of the strongest ones, just like the dollar. The big question is, how long is that going to last? And is this just a bear rally? And personally, I am looking at this as a bear rally in CAD. The problem is, I got EMA that's turning up. That's not a short. I got parabolic SAR that are going up, and I got RSI at 50. So I've got none of the signals I need to go short. But what I do have is a bear rally that once this momentum fades, then I can start to take a look at taking it short. But until then, it's on the shelf. I talked earlier about the RBA. That big tumble we had was the RBA. We got to bounce off that, and look, it's stalled out. Stalled out right at a resistance point. I like Aussie as a short here. It's a -2 in my book and can be entered at any time once you get a trigger. The Kiwi's kind of been pulled along with it. Look, it's not quite as weak as the Aussie, but you can see we're starting to hit that support level there at about 69.80 multiple times. The EMA is coming down. This is a -1, but it could turn into a -2 at some point. So while it's not on my list as short, it can make it on that list fairly quickly here. Let's take a look at all the movement over the last 24 hours, and there was a lot of movement. We had major swings within intraday periods. And so the dollar and the yen simply switched place. Look at that. Yen was at a +3. Now it's looking like go down. The dollar was weak. Now it's looking to go up. I like this pairing. We're going to take a look at it. Cryptos, okay, they're not bad, but they're just not great yet here. They're just not great. If you're going to be in one, be in Ethereum. The European stuff just kind of shuffled around. Nothing really happened. Euro got a little weaker. Swiss franc got a little stronger. Pound got a little stronger. I do think the pound is a potential currency that you can go long over the next 24 hours. We've got Aussie and Kiwi. They came down, and that RBA really hurt them. And this bounce is fading, so we want to be looking to fade that bounce. And then the CAD improved, but not enough to make it anything worthwhile. So looking at pairings, I've got dollar yen. Now I want to look at this one specifically because this isn't really about strength and weakness. This is about what two currencies are showing the most negative correlation at the moment, and it's these two. And negative correlation means the biggest moves. So when someone says, Rob, what do you like to trade? I like to trade the currency pairs that are making the biggest moves. And right now, dollar yen is at the top of that board. If you throw that out, because look, in the end, neither dollar or yen is trending strongly at this point on a daily chart one way or the other. So if you want to say, okay, throw away dollar yen, what am I left with? I think pound Aussie. I think long pound Aussie is the other trade that you could potentially look at. So let's take a look at those two trades specifically. As I said, dollar yen, I'm not getting into this because it's a super trending currency cross. I'm getting into it because it's having the biggest candles. And you can see this big fall in dollar yen. We had this big bounce. So at this point, dollar yen has a lot of momentum to the upside. Question is, where could that potentially go? We did kind of work our way through this little support here. So maybe the next resistance line is up here at the 134.50-ish area. That's about 120 pips away. So short term, dollar yen long. If you want to go down to a shorter time frame to really get a really nice entry, I like that. You can see we're starting to lose a little momentum. So if you want to wait a little bit, get a little bit of a pullback or a base, that's fine. But I think this is the one that's likely to have the biggest move over the next 24 hours. The other one I want to take a look at is pound Aussie. So here we have pound Aussie on a 4-hour chart. And you can see we just made a new swing high. We're pulling back here. We're in the midst of this pullback. So the question is, okay, where's the trigger to buy this pullback? You know, where do we want to actually get in here? And you can see on a 1-hour chart, we rocketed up, came down, and we just sat. We don't want to get in when it's just sitting. So we have to set up some parameters of, okay, when do we buy? I like a break of this parabolic SAR. When that happens, I think that could actually be a really good entry point. Wait for that SAR. It'll probably drift down to about 176.10 when it finally triggers. And if it triggers, that's going to be the entry point off of pound Aussie. And then a stop at 175.50 under this last support level. Over the next 24 hours, I don't think it's going to be a great trading environment. It's going to be okay. And I think you really got to focus in on the things that are having real big negative correlations, like dollar yen and like pound Aussie. Other than that, I'm not really excited about trading anything else. I'll check in again tomorrow. I'll rework my board and see if there's anything that's changed. So expect there to be the same thing in equities that we saw. Periods of time where the equities look really weak and they recover. And then periods of time where the equities look really strong and they fall apart. I think the equity markets are pausing here and don't really know where to go. Under the surface, that is going to affect currencies a little bit, but this is why dollar yen is actually such a good trade, because when the equity markets are swinging up, it affects this currency one way. When it falls apart, it affects it the other way. So dollar yen currency cross is my favorite trade over the next 24 hours. If you don't want to mess with that one, look at pound Aussie on the long side. That's it for me. Thanks for joining me. Goodbye, everybody.